Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Inferno cast, episode 012. I, of course, am Inferno Fox, and joining me today, we have our regular cast and crew for a fun and interesting topic near and dear to all of our hearts, something that we just so love so much. But before we get into that, just want to go ahead and introduce our wonderful cast and crew. First and foremost, we have Simbu Darkfang. He is our resident level 5 grandpa and a primary actor at Basement of the Dead in Aurora, Illinois. Simbu, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here. You're lucky. PGA Tour is on a rain delay, so I got some time to squeeze it in.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And hopefully not too late for the annual Wimbledon where you can catch tennis on the TV. And general reminder, Basement of the Dead, located in Chicagoland, specifically in Aurora, Illinois. They're having their big opening weekend this Friday, September 22nd. So check that on out if you're in the area. Next up, we have Stormrosesky of Twitch and YouTube channels, Stormrosesky. Storm, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Pretty soon, maybe I'll have the video that I've been promising to get up there, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, back to you. Thank you for having me. I'm done.
As they say in Jurassic Park, real life finds a way to keep you from doing stuff that you need or want to do. Yes. Astrimedes, he is a developer and co-owner of Second Place Games. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here instead of my soul-sucking software development day job that is not games.
Yes, I have nothing clever to rebut that with. I have nothing, because I definitely understand the soul-suckingness of the primary jobs. And you have a very cute kitty for those of us that are watching this on YouTube. If you're listening to it, sorry, you're out of luck. You can't see the cat. That's why you should catch us on YouTube at Inferno Fox Gaming, so you can watch all of our live reactions. And last but not least, we have my partner in crime, Jamie Owls. Jamie Owls, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'd rather be here than somewhere else.
Exactly. My thoughts exactamundo. And go ahead and launching into our primary topic, which is microtransactions and the video gamers who hate them. Before you do that, though, pre-discussion topic, what are your thoughts with the whole Unity crisis going on right now? Because this has been made kind of big news as of late, specifically with Unity itself charging its developers or platform holders like 20 cents per install, and then them kind of back and forth and Astrimedes, I want to kind of get your opinion on this first. What are your thoughts about this whole bojazz here?
Well, it is kind of a developing situation still, because I think now at time of recording, they've said in another day or so that Unity themselves have said they're going to put out another statement about like an additional revision to the policy or something along those lines. So we're probably going to see yet another kind of statement on this. But in general, I think it was a big mistake. Supposedly, I've not verified this myself, but executives at the company, including the CEO, sold a bunch of stocks days before this announcement, made this announcement. The announcement was taken pretty badly. I guess to state simply, the actual policy that they said they were going to adopt for developers using Unity is that every install of the game would incur like a 20-cent fee, as you said, Inferno Fox, to the developer. There was an immediate and negative reaction to this announcement, with concerns about people install bombing games, people using botnets to even subvert like a machine ID that they should be using to guarantee they only are hitting somebody once for the first install on the same machine or whatever. So they've of course said, oh, we'll monitor for these things, but they have not been very forthcoming about exactly how they plan to do so, which probably means they don't yet have a complete plan, or at least it's still developing. But it's a big mistake. The other thing I've been reading the last few days is people who work at big real game development studios, unlike my tiny, 2-man studio that I just work out of my house in. People that have they've these developers have said, apparently from at least a few different game companies, that Unity has approached them and said that they will waive, or they'll offer between an 80 100 to 100% discount on the 20-cent install fee if these studios switch from using a competing ad network to Unity's own, I believe, parent or owning company's ad network. Apparently, there is a lot of concern within Unity that their own packed in ad network, ad plugin they provide with Unity isn't by and large what devs are using. Most devs are using a different ad network. So it makes me wonder if, this whole thing is actually just sort of a push to force everyone onto using Unity's ad network. And then I'd imagine what they do is they'll let these, initial big discounts expire, and then also charge developers 20 cents per install. It seems like a huge mistake. There's already a ton of studios that have announced they're going to move off of Unity. There's weirder announcements like people will stop selling their games that are already released on March 1st. I want to say the Cult of the Lamb Steam game, I think, falls in that category. Other developers like the Slay the Spire developers, who are, I think they've said 2 years into development into their Slay the Spire sequel and currently using Unity, are going to migrate it to another engine, which will of course result in a massive delay to release of that game. Interesting statements like, I'm going to sell a limited release run of my games where there are only 199,999 copies available and no more installs can be had, and therefore no fee with the Unity terms. I wonder if that's more tongue-in-cheek, but point being, like, these, and the Slay the Spire developers is worth adding too. They said in this statement, this is the first public statement we've ever made. And that was what they said. So it's definitely hit everyone the wrong way in terms of developers. My kind of gut reaction when I first saw the announcement is that I think Unity is probably not raking in as much money as they would have expected from like a pure revenue share model when you reach a certain amount of sales, which I believe is the current setup Unity dev would fall into. So and it's because there's a bunch of indie developers and a bunch of them probably aren't meeting that threshold. It's people that are making games to initially learn and play around and make games and then continue to use it because it is an engine that's gotten a bunch of beatings and improvements as a result of all the people that have been using it. So it's, compared to a lot of things, stable. But it seems like a really negative move overall. I can't see this winning a lot of people over. I know, like, competing game engines like Unreal have even made comments on their website, making it extra friendly for Unity devs to switch over to using Unreal. I personally use Godot. Godot is an open source engine that you can script in C#, the same Unity language. It also supports some other language.
Yeah, and this is really interesting too, because and just as a pre-qualifier for my audiences, when we're talking about Unity, this of course, and bear with me, I'm just getting a quick note that my internet connection was unstable for a second, but hopefully we'll be all right. The Unity engine itself is literally like the gameplay guts of a game, like how a game runs. So if you play something like Fork Knife is made by the company Epic, who also made the Unreal Engine. So when you hear somebody say something like Unreal 3 or 4 or 5, that's the actual guts of the engine itself. So like a JRPG like Octopath Traveler, if memory serves, that runs on Unreal Engine, which is, you wouldn't think a pixelated JRPG would, but that's the power of these. And examples of stuff that's Unity Engine is, of course, games like and I just did a quick Google, stuff like Cuphead, Ori and the Blind Forest. I think I saw something about Hollow Knight, and then Nintendo games like I want to say Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, the remakes. So this is something that would impact a lot of these companies, and as Astrimedes had said, the indie ones are especially feel the pinch on that. When you're literally an indie developer like Astrimedes, and you're like part of a 1-man or 2-man or even 10-man team, getting that sort of, you know, pinch at the pocketbook it's impossible, and it's not sustainable. So
the other part that's really bad about the way they're charging the fee too is it's unpredictable. So especially for like a small studio that, you know, has maybe a few employees, where like they're really, you know, probably already have some pretty thin margins on everything. Now they have totally unpredictable whatever rate they get charged at monthly, whatever it is. You got this many installs this month, and with no way of knowing, as they originally proposed this deal, you know, like, are these just reinstalls? Am I just be getting hit again? Something I can't control at all for.
Exactly. It's not a tenable thing. My viewpoint on it is, I feel like it's Unity literally throwing the game something where they're, for whatever reason, they're literally setting themselves up to fail. And so my whole thought, my tinfoil hat, is asking the question, why are they setting themselves to fail? But before we move into the main topic, any other thoughts or opinions on the whole Unity stuff with the rest of the cast here?
Is this all going to start taking place early next year? Is it
January 1st, 2024 is when they said this
Okay.
will take effect. Yeah.
Could that be a possibility of a strike?
I mean, what's happening is almost the equivalent of a strike for like, because basically a bunch of people are saying, you know, we're not going to use this engine anymore, meaning we're not going to give Unity in any way, shape, or form any money. So it's more like a boycott, actually, because it's more like a product.
Okay.
So it's like a boycott is kind of already happening almost.
And it's funny, it's showing that perhaps, you know, there are boycotts in video games that could work.
Except these devs doing it, so it's maybe a different story.
Yeah, again, you're talking devs, like what, maybe couple 100,000 at most, versus, you know, a multi-million player industry, if not billion player industry. If, you know, let's say everybody boycotted Fortnite, you know, all players, well, that's a sizable strike right there, because now you're not only are you, you know, you're putting those concurrent player counts to pretty much nothing, but you're also hitting Epic in the pocketbook and everything like that. So that's going to drive up a real big stink right away, and it's going to be an immediate, like, okay, what are we doing wrong? Versus, you know, as with a, you know, let's say out of 200,000 devs that use Unity, of course, this is just approximate numbers. I don't know the figures, but let's say it's
more than that. But you're right that obviously the number of Unity devs is way smaller than number of players of any big game, essentially.
Right. So if you say, like, for example, if there's 200,000 Unity devs, okay, and again, these aren't the actual numbers, so don't, you know, cancel me in the comments for this. But for example, 200,000 Unity devs, and let's say only 50,000 devs decide to strike. Well, you still got 150,000 devs that are still running Unity. That's, you know, Unity's gonna be like, okay, whatever. You know, it sucks. We lost that little bit of a quarter of our thing, but we still got 3/4 of it paying into and buying into this. So those other quarter will come back around, because guess what? They don't know how to use Unreal or, you know, another dev program out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people who will still stay married to it. I think what's kind of funny about it is I think the people most likely to migrate necessarily are the people who are making the most money, and therefore would have given Unity the most money.
And one of the statements that Unity had said was, oh, don't worry, this is something we're going to charge the platform holders, meaning Steam, Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation. And so if that's the case, then you're going to have those platform holders just literally delist any games made by Unity, and that will anger the devs, and then that'll of course hit Unity's pocketbook that way. Which, I mean, realistically, that probably won't happen unless Unity actually did that. But as Astrimedes had said, we're going to be getting some more news from them, because it sounds like they're ready. I mean, it's 2023. They're getting ready to start their apology tour, because that's what you do. Like you do something wrong, time to go and do the apology tour across the country, so everybody can hit the positive likes, so you don't get executed.
And then try to still do that thing, which is like ultimately what I think they're going to try to pull here, is like they'll walk it back a bit, but they're still going to try to do it.
And that was like in our offline conversation that we had, that was I believe that's what I had kind of pretty much alluded to, was that, yeah, this is 20% per install is going to be the ultimate goal at some point. They're going to go ahead, okay, well, we're going to go back down to a 5% per install, and we're going to put a capper on it. We're going to put a softer cap on it. If we notice that the numbers are hitting, really high real fast, then we might lower that cap a bit. But the fact of the matter is that it's going to, regardless of what happens, this is Unity showing their end game by mistakenly showing their end game, because this is where they want to be, and not knowing how to properly announce it.
The other, and this is, the last thing I'll dwell on with this if we want to move on, but the other kind of really outstandingly negative part about this is it shows that Unity's willing to basically change the agreements out from under the devs after they've made them already, because there's a current subscription like Unity Pro, where you can pay a certain amount of money and it will make it. I don't know anything about the details of the arrangement, but I know it essentially amounts to you will pay less when you hit that threshold, or we raise the threshold in a way to where if you pay us the subscription fee, we probably won't charge you as much in terms of the revenue share. But now they've said, oh, these plans will all expire, and unless you do something, you will automatically be migrated on to this new plan, which is it's the whole, we're not technically changing the deal out from under you, but that is exactly what we're actually doing approach.
Exactly. And again, it could be something simple, and now we've seen this happen before. Okay, mysteriously the service goes down. The online service goes down, like their website, like a website goes down or something, when you're supposed to, on the day or the day before, fill out and renew your subscription or your policy or whatever kind of thing, to where, oh, guess what? Well, you weren't able to renew on that day of. Well, shucks, now you've been migrated over to the new, you're not grandfathered anymore.
That's pretty shady.
Exactly. But it has happened before. I mean,
that's a page right out of the Comcast playbook right there, my friend. Or I'm sorry, Xfinity. We have to use the proper names. Xfinity playbook. And speaking of despicable companies and despicable game companies, segues us right to our wonderful topic of microtransactions, and specifically microtransactions in video games. So it's essentially microtransactions. Of course, what they are essentially trading real world money for virtual goods. And this real world money is often converted to an in-game's virtual currency before it is then traded for said goods. And these can include buying items outright, such as skins from Epic's Fork Knife, to even buying chances to get items based on a random number generated system, which the latter, of course, called a gacha system. One of the first known games with microtransactions, and Astrimedes, you'll get a kick out of this, Double Dragon 3, the Rosetta Stone for the arcades. In there, players would pump quarters into the game when they reach the in-game store to be able to buy upgrades, characters, moves, and other stuff.
I didn't know about that. That's
wow,
crazy
for an arcade game. That's insane.
Yep.
So what year would that have been? Double Dragon 3, that would have been what, mid 90s or something, or
it was
early 90s?
1992.
Oh, okay, wow.
So the start of microtransactions in the current era of gaming could be linked to a term that a number of us know quite well: horse armor. So this, of course, for Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, which it was leaked today, is getting a remake. The original released March 2006, where players could purchase armor for their horse and at a horribly expensive cost of $2.50. But from there, the floodgates opened with companies like EA following suit with their 2008 release of The Sims 2. With the rise of social media and mobile gaming, in that era, you had games like Farmville, The Simpsons Tapped Out, and Clash of Clans. And then microtransactions, pretty much from then on, have really been a staple for like many video games, even Nintendo games, with the likes of their mobile titles, Switch games, even like Super Kirby Clash and Pokemon Unite. And I feel like in this day and age, instead of having a cheat code, you then just do a DLC or like a microtransactional, they call it DLC, but it's a microtransaction to buy maybe 30 elixirs or something like that. Like that's the new thing. And some of my favorite RPG series made by Nihon Falcom, being like the Ease series and Trails of Cold Steel, have that. So anyway, history lesson over. We're going to get back to the discussion with the team, and I'm going to have Astrimedes lead on this first question. And it, of course, is, why do game developers opt to have microtransactions besides, of course, wanting to suck?
Well, there's a few different reasons. I mean, as you described, like the horse armor situation, the motivation there would have been, can we get away with this? Will people bite? Can this be a thing where we just get more money? Because in that game, that falls in the category of games with microtransactions that you also pay full price for. So obvious greed, I would say, is one reason. This is often like the biggest studios. This is the reason they're including microtransactions. The other reason, which has, I would say this reason has evolved out of, since the advent of these microtransactions and mobile. To me, microtransactions and mobile combined created a world where people expect games. It's sort of an issue, software in general, but games in specific, I would say, people kind of expect games to be free on certain platforms like mobile. There is now just an expectation that on mobile your game is free. So another reason to do microtransactions could be that you think you won't sell many copies of your game by comparison to money you could make on the back end more unpredictably with microtransactions if you just let people start playing the game. And that there's both a kind of, good-natured and bad-natured kind of way to go down that path. The one path is like, basically, I'm only doing this because I still want to make some money from this game, and I just don't think my small game, where I don't have a big marketing budget to drive people towards it, I don't think I can get people to stomach paying even a couple dollars for this, whereas maybe people would play it if they can install it for free. And then you try to not be gross about the way you make your microtransactions. You have generally, I'd say, the most straightforward and kind of like totally acceptable microtransactions to me are ones that just add content. Make a transaction, get 3 levels and 5 abilities and a new character or whatever. Like that's okay to me, because you know exactly what you're getting. It's straightforward and it's not going to run out. Like, now the other side of the coin, the way to do this is to make really gross microtransactions that are actually designed to be gross, meaning you capitalize on human psychology and addictive behavior. You offer these microtransaction purchases at times that your team of gross psychological study focused marketers have identified are the best times to present an option to buy a certain thing. You do the math such that the amount of like grinding or like non-pay, non-real money currency that a user, it will take them, a 1,000 hours grinding versus the $50 you charge them to buy it or whatever. Like, so basically it's like I feel like microtransactions themselves have created a situation where I'm really, all this is really just focused on the mobile market in particular. Full disclosure, I released my Android game Horde Lord for $1 on the Android store. This was in 2016, maybe something like that, when I released this game. I sold, now, quality of the game aside, which I don't think is the best game ever or anything like that. I'm sure there's more reasons, but I got about 40 installs at $1 a piece. I am actually right now remaking the game, and I'm going to re-release it for free. I don't think I will put microtransactions in it. The one thing I've considered doing is have a basically just open-ended, like, this gives you maybe a hat and a one-time $5 thing or whatever dollar you want to throw $1 or $5 at me for making this game, go for it. But I'm not presenting this as really like game content or anything. It's just a way for you to give us money. So those are like the things I'm considering. But yeah, in general, microtransactions have created a whole new world in terms of games. On the one other category is like, even though this is a thing now, games that charge you full price and then also have any form of microtransactions in there. Again, with the caveat being, if it's actually a very straightforward thing that would be released as kind of like a standalone, or not standalone, but a content focused package of content you could buy for a set price, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I didn't even cover, but I'll just throw out there, as you mentioned too, stuff like gotcha mechanics, where it's, a roll the dice. Are you going to get anything at all, or anything at all that is worthwhile to you, I should say. I'm sure they're rarely brave enough to actually offer nothing as a possible reward, but they'll offer you that thing you already have 100 of that's not worth anything, that you just paid $5 for a chance to get the thing you really wanted.
Yeah, and I'll touch on the gotcha train in a little bit later, but want to kind of ask the next follow-up question. Simbu, I'm gonna posit this one to you. Are there any feasible positives at all for a player to have a game with microtransactions? Is there anything good you could think of where it would be a good scenario?
Well, when it comes to the microtransactions, and Astrimedes hits this, pretty hard on the head here with, if I paid $70 for a game, okay, and let's say it's a PvP game, okay, which is player versus player for anybody who may or may not know. If I can sit there and go and play 1,000 hours to get something, but somebody can, who has the capital to do it, just goes and rolls, and or it's just straight buys all these, legendary items. Well, if I'm just starting out there and there's no sort of leveling, like capping, matchmaking, then there's not much incentive for me to want to continue the game, and I just feel like I wasted $70. Now, games like Diablo 4 that introduced, heavily introduced microtransactions. Of course, it's for cosmetic things like horse armor, cosmetics for your armor to look different. It's transmog stuff for your armor. As well as, out of left field, they introduced a battle pass now for Diablo 4, which is, by God, it's not worth it. And if I didn't have it because I had pre-ordered the ultimate edition thingy, I wouldn't have wasted money on it. Again, that's one of those where it's kind of a gray area for the horse armor in that sense, because it doesn't give you anything, but it's like Fortnite in that sense. It doesn't give you anything, but it makes you able to express yourself. And of course, they don't shove it down your face, down your throat for the horse armor or the skins or anything like that in Diablo 4, because you have to go to your pause menu, and then you have to go over to shop, and then it brings it all up. There's nothing that consistently pops in and says, hey, check the shop, check the shop. The only time it really sticks in your face is when you first boot up and you're in the main lobby where you're selecting your character. Then you see, play or shop. But again, they don't shove it down your face. However, like that same token, that battle pass, not worth it. I don't think Diablo 4 is going to have a worthwhile battle pass, because the game punishes you for playing it like an open world RPG, and we can discuss this another time. I'm not going to go off on the tangent here. Now, where microtransactions, I believe, are the best and where they really do belong, and where the devs have figured it out and the companies really know what they're doing, is in games like Warzone, Fortnite, Fall Guys, Rocket League, Warframe, things like that. These games that are come out free to play. Now, this is where the microtransactions are for them, realistically, because they've given you a game for free. This is how they're making their money. And instead of using the model of, well, you come and pay us $70, okay, or in the case of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you have a $40 game at launch, okay, you have to pay us $40 at launch. It's basically we're going to let you try the game, and if you like it and you keep playing it, eventually you're going to spend some money on the game, or you spend nothing at all.
Those are really excellent points, and it really gives you that opportunity to try before you buy. And if you tried it, you didn't like it, you can move on to the next thing.
And especially now, real quick, especially now with game trials becoming a premium subscription only service.
Yes,
like to test drive a lot of games coming up, unless the dev makes them a free trial, like you can try on the beta or something, you got to be on a premium subscription to your live plan, your PlayStation Premium, to get game trials or anything like that. Or, be lucky if the game has a demo. And even then, the demo may or may not be even indicative of what you're going to incur with the final game, because the demo is generally what the devs are going to use to tweak the game.
Yeah, and or judge player count to see whether or not it's going to interest them. Or one of the very few times Square Enix is being good guy Square Enix, they say, okay, you play, download the demo and you can play the first chapter, and then if you decide you buy the game, all the work you did to get the first chapter goes towards the rest of your gameplay. Hey, it's cool when they do that, because then if you got into the game playing the first chapter, but they're happy because you bought their game, and you're happy because your work carries over.
Or you could do Diablo 4, what they did, and you can download the beta, play the beta. What Diablo did do, though, they stated that all characters would be null and void once the beta ended, so they were very upfront about that. But again, you download the beta, which you have to download the full game at 80 gigs, and then when the game comes out, guess what? You have to download the game again.
Which is garbage especially for a lot of individuals in like rural parts of the country, when premium internet connectivity is at a premium. But we kind of digress. I kind of want to have a general question, especially I'm going to Jamie Owls, I'm going to tag you on this question, and I want to hear from everybody here. Jamie Owls, you first, of course. What games have you played that have had microtransactions in it?
Really, the only one that I played is, of course, The Sims. Yes, those are my games. They're displayed there. With The Sims, I don't play them religiously, so usually I wait once a year, usually around Black Friday, when they do like a big sale on the Square Enix website. If I wanted to...
I'm sorry, that's the Sony PlayStation site. We have it on the PS5.
Yeah, excuse me, the Sony PlayStation site. I only download like a couple when they're on sale, because usually with the content, when I'm playing like one of the expansion packs. Like I said, I don't play them religiously, so it's just like I rather download a few, play through them, play through like the new content, the new aspirations that they have in there when you make your character, and then I wait a year until I decided to download like a new one. Because honestly, like if I'm happy to play The Sims and I'm constantly have to download it or buy new stuff, like that's just to me a lot of money to spend. And I don't have that money to spend on buying new stuff for The Sims.
And you're right, because like the regular Sims upgrades are like $10 each, and then the full packs are like 20. So when you snag them on Black Friday, it cuts the price in half and ends up actually being a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And funny enough, this is a physical copy of the game. It actually became free to play recently, to where you can download the game for free and play it. But then if you want additional stuff, then of course that's when you pay. Our good friends at EA, if anything, they're quite notorious for the microtransaction. But Storm, how about you? What games have you played that have had microtransactions in them?
Well, there is The Sims. I've done that one, and recently I've played that one. Fortnite. Let's see. Especially some of the mobiles. Those are the worst ones for me. Because I don't like the pass or whatever that Words with Friends has, because it allows you the ability to buy a power up that makes your tiles worth more. So all of a sudden, how are you really winning? You're not winning by your actual skill. You're winning by you have money to spend to buy your ability to beat me now. So
Well paid is what I would always say to myself when a player in Hearthstone with many, many legendary things beat me.
yes, I'd like
Instead
that
of well
because
played, well paid.
Yeah, the obvious term, pay to win.
Yep, and Disney is the worst offender. I have Disney Blitz on my phone. It's kind of like a Bejeweled whatever, and I've had it for years, but if there comes a time when they have certain challenges that you can't do anymore because you need this certain emoji thing to use, this character to use for whatever, and you have to buy him for diamonds, and those diamonds cost real money, and they're crazy, stupid, expensive for fake money that you invest in this stupid game. So they're doing it with their Dreamlight Valley and all of that crud. With you can buy packs of their fake money, so you can use that currency, the fake currency in their stores. I don't understand it. Wanting to buy the fake money for fake clothing. I guess I do it in Fortnite, but whatever. I have played the demo versions in of Dreamlight Valley on the Switch and PlayStation. So those are my things with it.
I did want to I'm currently playing, and I'm probably about 3-4 days in now to Dreamlight Valley. I did buy one of the founders packs, and so far I can say that the fake money I've only seen it able to be used for like cosmetic purposes or their like season pass thingy. I haven't seen anything that would like give you like better items or anything like that. It just looks like purely cosmetic, but of course it's a single player game similar to Animal Crossing. But
yeah, and it's probably a
agree.
thing where it endears itself to individuals who are the must-have Disney hardcore-ers, where they want to that's my property. Oh, look, it's Little Mermaid. You just got to get everything with that when that one comes out. And so that's how I'm assuming Disney, or really any other corporation, would get you in that type of a scenario. Simbu and Storm, I'm going to bug you with a fork knife question shortly, but Simbu, just you in particular, what games have you played that have had microtransactions besides, of course, fork knife?
Well, Dreamlight Valley. God, hold on, let me put my glasses on. Look at my game. Turn and look at my games collection. the fairy tale game.
Ah,
God.
you like disappeared for a second.
Sorry about that. You know, Life is Strange. The Life is Strange series technically is a microtransaction game, because they give you episode 1 and then you have to buy the rest of the episodes. I mean, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Disney Speedstorm. I tried playing Tower of Fantasy. I stopped playing that. You know, I mean, there's a if I really went going through, I could find them, but you know, I'm not gonna spend the next probably 40 minutes going over all the games that I played that have microtransactions in them because we'll be here all night.
Oh man. Did you do Star Wars Battlefront 2? Wasn't that the notorious one?
I did play it. However, I played probably like 3 matches and said this is not what I was expecting and hoping from a Star Wars battle game, because I would load into a match and just get wrecked every time I would spawn in. Just wrecked. And I'm looking at the other players in the game match, and I'm a level 1 and they're like level 50. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Dude, that's not fair. That sucks. That's an attestament to their poor skill matchmaking engine, but also probably there's a lot of buy-in that with the loot boxes and everything with that too. Probably more the former. I mean, really.
Well, again, when you're talking like 50, I think it's like 50 on 50 PvP or 25 on 25 PvP. I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of hard, especially because by the time I started playing it, it was kind of pretty much on that.
Astrimedes, you had mentioned Hearthstone. Any other of these pay to win or just microtransactional ones?
I don't tend to play a lot of games like that, but I also played Marvel Snap, which also has microtransactions. Marvel Snap is kind of interesting because it has a system where it calls it all cosmetic upgrades, and they sort of technically are, but like to keep getting more cards and stuff, you keep needing more of those upgrades. To be fair, you also just earn them by playing. I played Hearthstone on and off for years, and I never paid $1. I never paid anything to play that game. I played Marvel Snap for a few months basically, and I also never paid anything to them. There's a game I mentioned before, Dawncaster, single player mobile deck builder game. It's not freemium, it's $5 to buy it. It's the only things it offers in game is essentially like small content packs, and for between $2 and $5 you can buy like additional levels that like replace the existing levels in the game, essentially, which you can decide to add randomly or pick every time you go down that path. Additional cards. There's a ton of cards already in the game. Of course, the deck builder. Of course, there's new cards. So there's like maybe 5 or so content packs, and I bought one of those after playing the game, being much more interested in it than I thought I would be. But I think that's completely reasonable. So I've invested maybe not quite $10 into this game that I at this point have put a lot of hours into. I played the Hot Wheels game a bit because I was able to get it on a really good sale. I remember seeming like there was a ton of microtransaction content in that game. I didn't really play it long enough to get a great sense of that, but the thing that sort of grossed me out about that game is that the game normally, when not on sale, and it's pretty rare that it actually goes on sale, goes for about $60 or so. I know it's available on I don't know, some of the like live services you pay for, some of the subscription services. I know that it might be available on some of those, or was, or whatever. But that one seemed like a kind of like very cash grabby game. The game itself seemed pretty all right from what I saw, but yeah, that's probably the game I have the most experience, the most time in with microtransactions would be Hearthstone. The other kind of interesting thing I noticed about the microtransactions in that game is they changed over time, because I started playing it pretty early on, I think. And I played it for maybe 2 years or so. And in the beginning, I think pretty much there were some random cosmetic upgrades, and then you could buy more cards, which were just packs of cards. Over time, they actually added sets that give you guaranteed you get these cards. So it's like you're sort of buying more of like a deck or a build, like right off the bat, with sets of cards, which I don't think is actually a bad thing. It's really neither good or bad, other than like the other trend I did notice, they added an additional currency type. So now there are 2 currency types, virtual currency types within Hearthstone, and I don't even understand what the difference was. I don't play it anymore, but yeah, it's interesting to see how those things change over time in a game too that does offer microtransactions, especially a long-lived one.
Yeah, definitely. It's the sort of being able to morph the overall gameplay and the whole microtransactional schism, and how some games can go from pay and then just have that as an extra thing, kind of and then become free to play, like Sims 4, or just be a thing where it's free to play and then be morph into like a full game. Though that latter example, I'm guessing, is probably one like you kind of sort of buy into it as it's developing, and maybe the microtransactional stuff helps to continue development. For me personally, besides Fork Knife with Storm and Simbu here and Jason the 13th, I've really I played into Clash of Clans, although the more that I played that, the less I even thought about doing anything and really did anything microtransactional, because the microtransactions really got quite egregious, where like you want to use the in-game transaction, the in-game currency called gems. It takes like a week for literally a week human time for something to upgrade, but you pay 1,800 gems for it to finish right away, and that's basically like $20. It's not a feasible scenario. Whereas,
yeah, just for somebody who's like 20 levels higher than you to come over and destroy your base, and then you got to fix it.
Right. And then of course the game automatically fixes everything, but you've lost about 30% of your resources, and it's like,
And
oh,
you probably had to buy a pack of 2,000 or 3,000 gems and spend your 1,800, and then have a weird leftover amount, of course, because that's what they love with those virtual currencies.
And then
yeah,
maybe you pay for a week-long shield to hopefully hold the amounts, because you're that close to being able to afford the 10 million gold upgrade. And then of course the other game, which I am very not happy with myself with the microtransactions, is Final Fantasy Record Keeper, which is a very good JRPG, like a active time battle turn-based sort of a game, but it took the battle system from my favorite Final Fantasy, that's the 6th one, but said, hey, let's take that and the aesthetic of it and throw in all of the Final Fantasy characters. So I'm all like Jojo the Idiot Monkey Boy, because I see all of my characters and everything like that from my favorite series, and you do all these battles and it changes weekly and all this stuff. And yeah, I and that of course it was 99% a first player experience, and like an idiot, and I wailed pretty hard on that, and I am sober on Final Fantasy Record Keeper for a little over 3 years, and that's a gacha game. And so kind of moves into my next question, and I'm gonna answer for myself, and then I'll open it to you guys. Just like what sort of tips you'd give to someone who's stuck on the gacha train for their favorite games that they play, that have them. One of the things that I fell into is the sunken cost fallacy, where if I put money into the game, I like, oh, I already put money into it, I have to keep playing it. I have to keep playing it because I put this much into it. I put this much into it. I have to keep playing it. The reality is, even though I sunk in, let's say $500, and that's nowhere near how much I spent, $500 into the game, if I stop now, then that prevents me from putting in another $500 into the future. So therefore, I save $500 by quitting now. Not to mention the sunk time cost too, where maybe I put in 100 hours into this game. Again, not even near enough as much time I actually put into the damn game. I could be saving another 100 hours by not putting more time into that, and where I can invest that in other games that I could be playing. So it's a thing where and if there's somebody that's so deep into it, because this game, I've read stories, and Jamie Owls pulled up stories for me to help me, where individuals have sunk $10,000, $20,000, $30,000.
There are people that went bankrupt from
Yes.
playing those
Yep.
games.
Yes, and like $30,000+ into this game,
That you can't
into
get
Final
back.
Fantasy Record Keeper, to all this stuff, because you just, oh, I'm already in this. Oh, I got to get this item. And it's a thing where it's like, you don't have to get it. Learn to let go, and if you can't do it yourself, it's always okay to seek help. There are services like Gamblers Anonymous and other things like that. It is okay to seek help. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you go to somebody and say, hey, I need help, and that person doesn't want to help you, find another person. That's on that other person you sought help for. That's not on you. Definitely seek help if you need it. What about you guys? What sort of tips would you give someone stuck on the gacha train?
I mean,
Just stay away from sports games. Don't start playing Madden. Don't start playing NBA 2K. For God's sakes, mine and Jason the 13th's cousin, he plays NBA 2K23. He goes online and he just gets torn to pieces by people that have like epic, legendary, super rare, unique teams. And it's, well, guess what? It's a 2K23. So there's a 2K24 coming out very soon, actually, if it's not already out. So all that time and money, or all that money you just spent on that game, that's what they do. They get you with the next iteration. They get you next year, because all that 2K23 stuff, maybe a little bit transfers over to 2K24, but not all of it.
And to that point, I've heard FIFA is the same way, where as seasons go along with FIFA, people often buy and move around people into the teams, and that costs money. That costs money to do that within that. And I've heard a lot of stories of people who have had like like 2 generations back with the Xbox 360, where they would just have two or three copies of FIFA, and that's it. That's all that they do, and they have. And personally, at one of my previous positions recently, a number of people have said, oh, you're into video games, that's great. Oh yeah, I play FIFA. Oh yeah, I play FIFA. And then like that's all that they play. So
I would also suggest like just keep a limit on it. Like maybe if you spent like already $200 and just strictly only spend $200, don't try to give in to all the other features or downloads or upgrades or whatever. Just, I mean, I know it can be very tempting, but if you just already said to yourself, okay, I only spent 200, that's it. I'm not going to spend any more the rest of the year.
Yeah.
See, and the biggest problem with, sorry, Inferno Fox, but the biggest problem with that is that's what they do to get you, though, is, oh, hey, that is my biggest pet peeve, and I will get off my soapbox after this. That is my biggest pet peeve in any game that has a microtransaction in it. Let's take ESO Online. I played it for a little while. I didn't run across this, but let's say I was in the red mark and I have to go and I want to, go and explore. Well, if I get to an entrance to the Black Marsh and I don't have the Black Marsh expansion, here's what you're going to do. Here's what the games companies do is they put a little pop-up that shows up. Hey, buy our Black Marsh expansion. Now, the option to buy pops up and highlights immediately. What doesn't highlight right away, which takes about 5 to 10 seconds to highlight, is the no option.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're right. I remember hearing about that.
That's extremely dark pattern software design to do something like that. Like that is textbook anti user design.
yep. And
Crazy.
there's a lot of times you accidentally hit the button and there's no fail safe. There's no are you sure? It's just bye. That's
Would
the
you
problem. And Epic gotten a big problem with that is Inferno Fox you sent to us recently.
Simba, would you say that experience with ESO was the most egregious example of like microtransactional or purchase or have you seen something worse?
I think there's a small miscommunication. I did say that I didn't notice it in ESO, but I was using ESO as an example because of the open world and the fact that they have many different DLCs to buy for many different lands, kind of thing. It's seen it before, kind of thing, where and there's a YouTube channel called Viva La Dirt League. I love them. I don't know if you guys have checked them out, but they have this epic NPC man thing, and they do a lot of gaming videos. They're great, so if you have a chance, check them out. But again, at the same time, like I said, I can't say that ESO did it personally, but I know that does happen in games, and that would be very egregious to me, not wanting to play your game again.
But like personally, for games that you have played, what would you say was the worst one that you've seen?
The worst one?
And maybe why you think that.
Yeah.
Storm, you've been quiet. What would you say is the worst microtransaction? Would you say the Disney Blitz one was the worst one that you've seen? Because that sounded pretty crappy.
That one, and then there was, let me Google the name. There was a Walking Dead game that I played a couple of years ago.
What was it? I remember you.
Was it mobile or console?
It was mobile. You had to like you could buy upgrades for your characters and things. So it wasn't just skins, you could buy these ultimate like 5 blah blah blah. So it was kind of turn-based RPG-ish where you'd have certain attacks you would have to do, and then you had factions you could join. Well, those people then who could afford to buy all the upgrades became unbeatable, and that just turned me off from the game. And I did buy 1 or 2 upgrades, they got me, but it was like it was a treat. That is how I would tell people to treat these things, as like a reward for something, instead of, okay, if it's $20 on fake money for a skin in Fortnite, I remind myself that I have no problem going to Starbucks or something and buying a $7 coffee that is going to last one time. Where the $20 in Fortnite, I get a skin I'm going to use several times, whatever. So that's how I would handle it. But yeah, that game, it just became stupid, and I got out of it. On top of the factions demanding that you play and getting mad that you had a real life and weren't there to play at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night because I wanted to go see my friend's band. That's all I got to say. So,
well, you don't have a friend, and he doesn't have a band anymore. That's just how it works. The fact that the games take your life, and that's something there's it there right there. I will tell you this, Storm. You didn't mention it, but I want to say this. If you play a game that has factions, any sort of user-based factions, for the love of God, if you want to stay away from spending a ton of money and going big, don't join any of their factions. Pay attention to the faction descriptions, because if they say casual, or like basically any form of like a synonym for casual, those are the kind of factions you want to join, because they're not if you see anything that's like hardcore and 90% of your top like 1,000 factions in any mobile game or any console game, you are going to have to pay to stay.
Yep.
And you notice that nearly all of the microtransactional things that we've mentioned have some sort of like social element to it. paying and to stay in these factions, to pay to win, pay to be able, even be able to stay with the other players, like with the NBA 2K example that you gave, or even
Keep up with the meta in
Mhm.
games like Hearthstone and really ultimately a lot of these competitive games. Yeah.
Yep. And then even like Fork Knife, where I remember it being a thing where, yeah, you can play and you'll look like a noob if you use the default skin. And there's that like societal social pressure for you to have the cool skins and everything like that. Of course, all of us here, we're not in junior high or high school, so we don't feel that pressure the same way. But it's there for the kids and young adults that are playing games like Fork Knife, where you spend the money to get the skins and everything like that. Um, Astrimedes, what was the one that you would say? Oh no, let me switch back to Simbu. Simbu, I moved to Storm real quick because I think you were trying to remember something or Google something. Did you find the answer on that or?
I would say any game, and the 90% of the egregious things that I noticed for microtransactions and personal issues, anything you play on mobile, I don't care what it is, Candy Crush, Blitz, Bejeweled, Disney emoji Blitz, Diablo Immortal. I don't care, except for Horde Lord, because I spent a little bit of time with Horde Lord on a super secret beta test for Astrimedes. And fortunately, it didn't pop up telling me that I had to pay him any money, because otherwise I would, be calling for his head on this podcast.
That's why we charge $1 and no one bought it instead.
But I would say anytime that you play a mobile game, and let's take Emoji Blitz for instance, or Bejeweled or Candy Crush, because it's a round based thing. So you play the game for 2 minutes, and then your round's over, or a minute, whatever. Your round's over. Now you get your rewards for playing the round. Well, to get double the rewards, you have to watch an ad, or you don't even get double the rewards. You just have to watch an ad to claim your rewards. And if you want to, and guess what they all say? Click here to go ad free.
Mm-hmm.
Buy our subscription for 1 month on Google Play Store for $5.99, and you'll be ad free.
You know what I will say is not a terrible approach is if you make a freemium game that you have ads in, but you have a one-time fee option to turn the ads off. Because I think that's actually modeling then basically, look, the developers need to make money. We're now giving you the choice for how you want to give us a reasonable amount of money. Either soak up these ads with your eyeballs or pay us a little money.
A perfect example of it, and it's one that I use. It's called Meme Generator, and it's a one-time thing. As last I knew, it's a one-time like $5 fee to permanently remove ads from it. But at the same time, the ads are only like 2-3 seconds, and I'm not, I'm making memes. I'm not, trying to get to the next level. I think it's something funny. I make it, and then I can wait a couple seconds for the little X to pop up to tell it no. Because of course the devs are still making money from the ad content by the ad being played.
And kind of getting to, as we're rounding out the discussion here, getting to some of the games that we play and love that are near and dear to us, but have microtransactions, and that sucks. And Storm, you had mentioned about how you sometimes buy something and it's a treat.
Yep.
How often would you say you buy items from Fork Knife?
Well, besides the monthly battle pass, or not, whenever the battle pass comes out, and right now I'm part of the Fortnite crew, which gives you a monthly skin and 1,000 V-Bucks and access to one other game to play. It honestly depends, because if there's a skin that I really want, then I'll get it. So that's maybe a rough estimate of when the, I don't know. I honestly don't know how to, or what kind of time that I would put into it, because it is so rare for me to spend anything on any other game besides Fortnite. So it depends on what they have in the store when it's available, and if I have the money to do it, to buy the V-Bucks, because, you know, if I don't, I don't. It's nothing that's ever broke me, but if there's something I really want, I make sure that I get it. So,
I think a good answer for anybody for Fortnite, for me, for people like me, Jason the 13th, and Storm here, is what collab and when is it coming out? You know, I follow a couple Fortnite leakers, and I know I sent it to our offline group chat, our Fortnite chat offline. You know, and of course they're good about leaking upcoming collabs. So usually if there's something that I know will interest, like Storm or Jason the 13th, or just the group in general, like I'll send it to the chat, and we usually have Storm a few weeks, maybe a month or so before the collab generally hits, because it usually gets leaked early, like really early. And then, you know, we can prep for, you know, hey, Terminator, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator is coming, you know, within the next 3 weeks. Well, we want, you know, Storm wants that. So what's she going to do? She's going to prep her savings and prep her money and prep that she has the V-Bucks for when he comes out. And then she's going to buy him.
So how you follow that model too, of course. And how often do you find yourself buying from Forknife, Simbu?
When I first started playing 4 years ago, I spent a lot more, way more than I did now, only because there was so much content and so many skins that had nostalgia to me, you know, that I really enjoyed, or that, you know, I really thought were really, really cool. Now, as the game goes on, it's become a thing where I don't have to spend as much anymore, because I have pretty much all the stuff that I want. Now it's just waiting for the next collaboration to come out, you know, like if TMNT drops into Fortnite, which, because they've already been in Fall Guys, and that's an Epic property, you know, so it's possible they could come to Fortnite. It's not out of the, you know, the realm of possibilities, but, you know, and of course it all depends on the price. Like I know for the turtles in Street Fighter 6, they're like $15 a turtle.
that's insane.
So
and it's stupid
to get
because
all four turtles,
it's not
you're
even
paying the same price as the game.
And it's
Yeah,
not
that's
even an
stupid.
actual character. They're skins that get costumes that get put over your character that you create.
Right. And it's not like they give a special move set or anything either. As far as I know, I could be wrong. So if you know more than I, or more, you know, if you know something Inferno Fox may not, place it in the comments below, please. Educate us. We are always open for education on topics we may not know. But again, if I want all four turtles, I got to spend another $60 plus tax. So I got to buy the game a second time.
Yeah, it's really crazy. That's another good example of an egregious cost for a particular DLC package, especially when as I said, the start of all this, the horse armor was $2.50. But in just kind of rounding out the discussion here, I feel like microtransactions obviously are the device that companies are using, and I will continue to use until the end of time, or until video games are no longer a thing, to be able to penny pinch and get more money as much as they can, kind of like the whole Unity thing, trying to penny pinch and get as much money as they can. And it's a thing where, you know, you got to be smart with your money. And I personally feel like money is better more spent on physical things, even if it's physical copies of games, or even if you're buying the $5 coffee a day, because remember, $5 a day, every day, that's about $1,800 a year. That's still not even near enough to being a down payment for a house. So don't feel guilty if your $5 coffee is something that helps you get through the day.
Right.
Exactly.
But-
There is one thing I want to mention, and they bring it up in the movie Ready Player One. It's one line where they're talking. It's the evil corporation, Megacorp, or whatever they call themselves. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But he brings up, we can sell up to X amount percentage of a player's visual field without inducing seizures with ads. And of course, to get the ads away, guess what? You got to spend and pay for their subscription money. So when VR becomes a thing, I'm very worried.
And just wait, because we're going to be touching upon VR on a future topic. It'll be kind of a outsider's perspective because none of us have any experience with VR, so we can't say for sure, but VR has always been something that has been always on the periphery trying to break in, but has just never been able to do it. Unfortunately, microtransactions isn't the case. But I just want to go ahead and thank everybody, as well as the audience, for joining and listening. And you, of course, can catch us here on YouTube for the live video, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. Just a quick preview. This Saturday, I've got a review coming up for The Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel 1. It's a game that came out a decade ago. I finally got into it. And these games, there's 4 in this series, but the larger saga, I want to say it's like 10 or 11 total. Each one is anywhere from 40 to 60 hours. And holy crap, that is a lot of time. It's a turn-based JRPG, so it's right up my alley. So feel free to join me when that premieres this Saturday at 10 a.m. But first and foremost, again, a huge thank you to my wonderful cast and crew. Jamie Owls, thank you so much for joining us. She, of course, is my partner in crime.
Thank you.
Stormrosesky, you can catch her at the Twitch and YouTube channels of Stormrosesky. Storm, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun and informative, even if quiet for me this evening. But hey, some opinions there. You know.
No, thank you so much. And we're all learning a lot of stuff together. Astrimedes, you of course can find him with Second Place Games, both as a developer and co-owner. Astrimedes, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. Time to go dream up some gross microtransactions for my games.
Because remember, you can have a gem-related system to where there's a button that they press to clear the screen, but the first 3 are free. Buy another set for $5 or 10 for 10. Simbu Darkfang,
10 for $11.
Yep. Simbu, you can find at the Basement of the Dead. That's located in Aurora, Illinois. So if you're in the Chicagoland area and you want a hauntingly good time, their opening night is going to be this Friday, September 22nd. But Simbu, thank you again for joining us.
It's always fun because apparently you guys are the only ones that actually want to hear me talk.
And Simbu's referring to, of course, the 6 of us as a group and the hundreds of thousands of you out in internet listening podcast land. And again, big thank you to all of you as well. And we hope you have a great day.